Gentlemen, what is good? Tonight's video is going to be about me telling you, well, the name of the video is how I recovered from being zeroed out. But real quick, please, if you like the video, hit the like button. Also, hit the subscribe button. Even if you just with a little vested interest in your part, knowing that I'm going to get better as I do this stuff. The content I think you'll find, if you're not just looking for the red meat, if you're not just looking for like the stuff that's like, pleasing to the brain, I have content I think that is true, genuine, and I from my own personal life experience, and I think as I get better at doing these videos, I think you're going to benefit by hitting the subscribe button. So please do. Also, tonight's video, the fragrance of the night is Cool Water. All right, it's a $30 bottle. You can buy it pretty much at any pharmacy. And I've been wearing it since I was in high school, and the girls have loved it ever since. It probably has estrogenics in it, so I don't know. But either way, if you're going to wear a cheap-ass cologne, make it be Cool Water, because it's worked for me, man. Anyway, so how I recovered from being zeroed out. Before I tell you how I recovered, I think I need to kind of get into what this term is and where I got this term. And I think you guys know, and I've mentioned in all these other videos, I got this from Rollo Tomasi. Okay, so let me pull up real quick what this is. I want to read this here, and this is from the rationalmail.com. Okay, he says, last week I introduced a new concept, and this was, when was this? November 2017. Says, I introduced a new concept in what most men can expect at some point in their lives. And he's right. This idea of being zeroed out. Basically, men having most of the lifetime status, financial equity, reputation, professional and educational growth, emotional investment, and other metrics of men's life equity being erased. Okay? That happened to me. That happened to me early on. I lost my lifetime savings. I lost my career. My educational growth was stumped. My reputation was fucked up. Everything that I was moving towards in life was completely gone. I was lucky enough that it happened to me when I was in my 20s, right? So here, let me continue this real quick. And I just want to touch on this. He goes, I think it ought to be a part of any red pill aware man's understanding that at many points in our lives, we will be confronted with the prospects of having to rebuild ourselves. True. Failure, rejection, and disappointment will happen for you. That's just a part of a man's life, and it's easy to rattle off platitudes about how many times you get back up, being the measure of a man. So true. But what I'm saying is there will be times when total reconstruction of your life will be necessary. Yes. Yeah, absolutely. That's 100% right. Failure, rejection, and disappointment will happen for you. Yeah. But then there will be times where you have to completely reconstruct your life. And that's 100% right. Hopefully not more than once or twice in a man's lifetime. But the failure and rejection is going to happen dozens of times. And that happens to me all the time, and I try to make all those a learning experience. All right, here we go. You will be zeroed out at some point. It's scary but true. And how you handle this is a much different situation than any temporary setback. All right? This zeroing out is made all the more difficult when you confront the fact that what you believe to be so valuable, the equity you were told was what others would measure you by, okay, was all part of your blue pill conditioning. At that point, you need to understand that there is most definitely a hope for a better remake of yourself based on truths that were learned in the hardest way. Man, holy shit. I wish I had this when I was in seminary. Deeply profound words. Rollo Tomasi is a tremendous writer. It's deeply profound and true words. And this zeroing out is made all the more difficult when you confront the fact that what you believed was so valuable, the equity you were told was what others would measure you by, was all a part of your blue pill conditioning. Okay, put that down. All right, so there's a couple key points in there. More than a couple, but an infinite amount of knowledge there. It's everything I grew up thinking was valuable. And I grew up in a Christian church and an evangelical conservative home, and or at least in my family. My father was not conservative at all. And actually, as I get older, I really appreciate my father for the way he was. I think he was kind of red-pilled in his own way. He wasn't buying it. He wasn't buying it. At least he loved Jesus, and he had us watch Jesus movies all the time. And that's kind of where I'm at in my life. It's like Jesus rocks, but like the way the church is, it's like it's a whole nother story. And you got to understand that being zeroed out is when you're raised, and everything that's conditioned in you, you're told is to help you be successful. It's not. In fact, for me, it backfired tremendously. And it hurt. It ended up like damaging me. And so let me tell you my story real quick. During my college years, I had fun. I did my thing. But then, I think around, I had a girlfriend. I had a main girl, and my whole approach to LTRs in my entire life was I had an LTR, I had a girl, but then I would also, it was non-exclusive, and I would see other women. And that was always my approach. And so that was my thing in college, and I had other women. I had a main girl, and I had other women. And then when I hit right around my senior year, I kind of got this this rediscovery for wanting to read the scriptures, and I ended up reading the entire New Testament. And then I went through and read most of the Old Testament. Most of that is, I had no idea what the hell I was reading at that point in the Old Testament. But I started going to an evangelical church with my family. And I stress with my family in Connecticut, where I was raised. I'm from Stamford, Connecticut, and originally. Now I live in Pittsburgh. But so I was with my uncles and my mom, and my dad would occasionally come, but he wasn't buying it. I love my dad for that. He just wasn't buying it. He's like, what's up? But I think really towards my senior year of college, I was trying to figure out how to make things right. And then after I graduated college, I met my former wife and my oldest son's mother. And she was, what can I say? She was a Latina bombshell. She was gorgeous, hot. And she looked great. And she was everything that, I was like, oh, gee, she's a member of a church. I didn't know anything. And next thing you know, after I graduated college, I spent a lot of time investing in her. And because in my understanding was, from what I had seen in the church, was marriage was your number one priority. Okay. Like marriage was going to be your biggest ministry. And that's just not biblical at all. At all. Excuse me 1 second. Hold on. Yeah, I still got my videos running in the back. At least somebody's watching my videos. So, whatever. I just thought it'd be a nice little effect. You can judge me for it. All you professional YouTubers, if any of you guys ever see these things in this video, you can critique me all you want, man. Give me some constructive criticism, please. I don't care. I'm just trying to figure this out, and I'm trying to provide some value to the world. That's all I'm doing here, and maybe even try to figure out how to make a living doing it. So I met my wife at church, and I thought to myself, well, shit, I'm a young kid. I had options. I'm not going to lie. Like, even as a young guy in college, like, I could get girls, but like, I had a lot of anxiety about being with women. Like, I was never a natural. When I would sleep with women, I'd be like worried about it. Be like, oh, is she Is she enjoying this? Does she enjoy what I'm doing? What do I do? How do I make this better? And I remember doing a lot of work early on in college, and even later on years in college, I did some. It was I spent a lot of time in college trying to figure out how to get good sexually, and towards the end of college, I started trying to not do that as much and trying to not figure out how to make money. At one point, I wanted to be a lawyer, and towards my senior year of college, I was like, dude, I'm thinking about something else, this and that. And then when I graduated college, I was with my ex-wife, and she thought I was going to be a lawyer. And she's like, oh, yeah, well, let's be together. And then I decided, oh, you know what? She'll love me no matter what. I want to discover God's word, and I want to become a youth pastor. And that's what I did. I became a youth pastor for the next 4 or 5 years. And during that period, I went through a lot of hardship with my wife. We got married, and as it turns out, I found out, 2 years into our marriage, that she had been cheating on me with both men and women on all different types of websites, this and that. And that was a period in my life where, it was some real red pill moments for me. Excuse me. Those were like some really telling red pill moments for me. I didn't know that at the time, and I just remember, I'm really hesitant about how much I share, because I don't ever want my son to see these videos. But at the same time, I'm at the point where I really don't give a fuck anymore. But I had realized that after marrying her and realizing her behaviors and this and that, it was just a disaster for me. I was working for a church in New England. It was the largest Presbyterian church in New England. And I basically had realized that I was pouring my life into this ministry, and my wife was just kind of out doing her own thing. I mean, she would disappear for weekends at a time, and she would just, she was doing her thing. And to be honest with you, I'm not mad at her. I'm not sad at her. I totally get why she would do that. She was 2 years older than me, by the way. I was 23. She was 25 when we got married. She was bored with me. I was not satisfying whatever needs she wanted. It's like today with my wife today. I run game on my wife, and she loves every second of it. But with my ex-wife, it's a different thing. When you're BPD, my ex-wife, she met 5 or 6 out of the 9 criteria, at least according to the whatever the DSM, 4 or 5, whatever it was. But so I found out she was cheating on me while I was working for the church, and I planned on going to seminary. I applied to a number of seminaries. Pittsburgh Theological Seminary was the one that gave me a full ride. So I decided to move out there, and right as I decided to move out there, right around that same time period, I found out that my wife had been cheating on me online, men, women, this and that, all types of websites, ex-boyfriends. And I was like, dude, you gotta be kidding me. And I remember my biggest red pill moment, and I'm going to tell you this right now. I'm just going to tell you. Was when I found her on a website with her naked pictures, and I confronted her about it, and she sat there and she screamed at me for an hour, saying, how could you possibly believe this was me, this and that, while I had the pictures up on the computer. I had found them through I had downloaded Google Desktop, and it would take images of pictures and this and that on these old computers, and it had her picture up. And she was like, straight up, a picture of her. She'd be like, how could you think this and that? And she tried to say it was this friend and that friend. And she was doing this friend and that friend. Finally, after 2 hours of her screaming at me, she admitted that it was her. And I was like, are you fucking kidding me? What kind of power did this woman have over me? Like, what was I thinking? And as it turns out, these BPD chicks, they go to these Christian churches, and Christians are gonna have to realize this, but women know how to play the system. I mean, especially these BPD chicks. Especially, like, my ex-wife is really good at playing the system, playing the churches, and playing the system in the churches. Okay, she knows how to get what she wants from these things, man. So I moved to Pittsburgh Theological Seminary, and then because I was still involved in the church, basically, I tried to be forgiving, and I thought that was the thing to do, and I thought that was like, I came out, I had a full ride, or pretty close, like I had all my costs covered to come out to Pittsburgh Theological Seminary. I thought I was going to be a Presbyterian minister. I thought that's what I wanted at the time, and even though it wasn't suiting to my personality at all, I thought, man, I really love theology. I thought I loved the biblical scholarship. I loved the pursuit of truth. And real quick, the pursuit of truth is something I need to stress here. We're 16 minutes in, but I remember in college, my whole idea, I remember coming across this like idea of, all right, what I want is to understand truth. And I had felt that God had led me into, the seminary track, and then led me into being married to this woman. And I was like, all right, well, and looking back, it's like, I think both of those have completely told me the truth. And in that sense, you got to be careful what you ask for, because God might might give it to you. Just might. And if your pursuit in life is truth, be ready. I'm just saying, be ready for it, because it might not be pleasant. Okay, so when I was at the seminary, our first year, the first week and a half where she came in, we got pregnant with my son after all this happened. And I knew that I was going to be in on something, and this was going to be something that was going to be tough for me and tough for my son. And I didn't know he was my son at the time, but I knew that I was going to be dedicated in being with this child. And I said, damn, I just made a mistake. I'm not calling my son a mistake, but I said I knew that I just made a choice that was going to be really tough. And so first year of seminary was dealing with her pregnant. It was peaceful. I got through the first year of seminary. As soon as the baby was born, like any BPD check, any stress factors added into the matter just created a whole hell of, like, a hell life. Okay? So, excuse me. But yeah, so as soon as my son was born, like, everything kind of went to shit. It was like really fast. And I'm not blaming my son. And I love my son. And if he ever watches this video, I'm not blaming you, buddy. I love you. Okay? At seminary, things got real hard after he was born. And then I started reading up books on psychology about behaviors that I've seen, patterns I had seen. And I came across this book called Stop Walking on Eggshells. And it was about being married to a person with BPD, particularly women. And I identified with it, and I was like reading through these stories, and I was like, Jesus, what is going on, man? Do I have to deal with this the rest of my life? And at some point, like, what had happened was my wife had told me about her experiences with this, her being raped as a younger person, and I had blamed this person for her. And this is no small point. I can't mention who this person is or what he is relation to her, but she had told me that this person had raped her amongst other people. And I thought, man, I was still Captain Save-A-Ho. I just remember thinking, man, this guy's a fucking prick. If I can beat his ass. And this person came to visit us one time, and this was like right around after my son was born in our second year of seminary. And I went out with this person and confronted, and we went out and we had drinks, and we both got drunk, and we got home, and I wanted to start a fight on the seminary campus, and she took his side and not mine based on who he was as her family member. And From there on out, the seminary saw me as a drunk, abusive person. At that point, I was also taking Adderall for study purposes, so they saw me as a drug-dependent human being who was drunk. Okay? And I remember sitting the next day in the dean's office, him telling me I had to go to like AA meetings and this and that. And I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? And so for the next year and a half of seminary, maybe 2 years, it took me 4 years to finish. My beliefs, my understanding of my wife, my understanding of the state, and being, and it was to be also the beginning of my understanding of the gynocentric social order. I realized that the seminary had taken her side. Okay. They had assigned her or had recommended a lawyer through the women's shelter here in Pittsburgh because of that night. And I had never touched my wife. And I also was studying, taking my studies very seriously. And my inerrant views of Scripture, my conservative evangelical views of Scripture were being challenged. I was trying to understand Scripture for what it was. So my religious ideals were being challenged. My understanding of my wife was being challenged. I was studying BPD. I was like, dude, what the fuck is going on here? Scripture, wife. And then all of a sudden, the seminary came in and backed her up. And I couldn't figure out why, because she had this feminist that was that was backing her up, this woman. And then the dean, who presented to be my friend, but really was backing her up. And I don't know where she got this. I ultimately, it was from the seminary that recommended her to get this lawyer through the women's shelter. And it was after that, once that happened, she ran me through the court systems. My life savings was gone because she had a free legal representation. Free. And from there on out, I realized I couldn't deal with it. And as soon as I ran out of money, and to this day, she won't take any accountability for it. She'll still say it's my fault, this and that. And her and I get along for the most part. And I'm hoping that she never sees these videos long after my son turns 18. He's 13 now. If she does, I don't care. And with the caveat, I want to say also that her and I have actually gotten along pretty well for the most part over the years. We've gotten along, and she's been, her and I have actually really done a good job. But the early on stages was really hard. Okay. And I think that it took me kind of getting through what I got through and other circumstances, basically, where also she had gone through her own versions of her life. She had gotten pregnant from another guy and had to deal with him, and he was a tough ass, and he's actually pretty cool. But so this was also the beginning of my understanding of a gynocentric social order. I started basically looking at, like, why are these people backing her up? She's BPD, right? She's not as she can't do what I do. She needs people to supply her with things, but the whole system is backing her up. Why is that? And I even got to the point where at one point I was thinking about writing a book and writing some, like, I had jotted down some ideas about, and I even thought about writing this book, and I thought about the title of this book would be BPD and the Plight of Humanity. For some reason, whatever I saw in her, I had seen everywhere else, like amongst the culture. It was as if, like, BPD was the culture and the culture was backing her up. Okay. So I don't know. It was very strange to me, and I was trying to make sense of life. So how did I recover from this? Okay. Well, I graduated seminary barely. Okay. I had a good roommate that was a friend of mine, helped me out. We got through this. What else? I had family help after I lost my money. I had help from friends after I lost my money, and at some point I just had to, like, forfeit like the lawyer thing, the law thing, and I was just like, I can't do this. All I can do, I went through, basically, I went into monk mode. Okay, what did I do? I went into monk mode. I left the church. Okay, I shut down the internet. I stopped doing anything on the internet. I decided that I was no longer going to work for a church, and for a couple of months I started taking up like some odd jobs here, and I painted. What else did I do? Yeah, I mostly painted for a summer after that, after I graduated seminary. And then after that I worked for Mario's, which was the best thing. I worked for Mario's for 2 years as a bouncer. I also got myself in shape. I worked out. I had gotten fat during the seminary, and then realized I'd been in shape during college, and I said, I need to get back to that. So I ran. I bought this gym membership for $25 a month in this shitty ass gym right down the street. Worked out a whole bunch. And I purged myself. I went monk mode. I left the church. I didn't want to be around church people. I stopped the internet. Okay. Which there was no smartphones for me at that time. There was no porn for me at that time. Okay. And not that I was addicted to porn, but I didn't have the option for it, which helped me out. And I think you guys need to understand that. That's an important thing. I worked at Mario's for 2 years. I also worked out a lot. I kept close to my son, which was important. At that point, for the first few years, I only had him every other weekend, but I kept close to him. Also, I had therapy with a guy that I had found, and he was an old school guy, and he had helped me out tremendously. Him and I spoke about philosophy, this and that. And he talked also about how the new system of, and I've said this in the previous video or the video before, but like how the new way of doing therapy was not going to be very constructive or good for anybody. And he didn't like the direction it was going. So the last thing is, I understood that there was a light at the end of the tunnel. Okay. And I had always believed that, based on my Christian belief, that, that God was never going to put me through anything I couldn't handle. And I always had that in the back of my mind. Okay. I always did. And that carried me through really up into the first few years after I had been zeroed out. Okay. I was working at a bar, and at Mario's I had a lot of fun. And at that point, I didn't know what was going on, but I worked out, got in shape. I met with a lot of women. And I didn't know what I was doing at the time, but I was spinning plates. I don't think I can call it spinning plates because I didn't know what that was at the time. And mostly why I was spinning plates was because I still had that blue-pilled mentality where I was like, all right, these girls aren't going to like or love me for who I am because I couldn't give them a life. I was being, I lost my life savings. I wasn't trying to build towards any substantial career. I was just working at a bar. I also, I was paying child support. So I knew at that point in my life that, and I knew this at that point in my life because of my previous experience, that there were two different types of men that women would engage with, right? One would be the guy they would sleep with. The other guy would be the guy they were married. And that's all I knew. And I felt really guilty. I felt shitty about the fact that I wasn't going to be the guy they were going to marry at all. And so I was like, all right, I'll just be the guy that they have sex with. And I felt shitty about that. And now that I'm red-pilled, I'm like, cheers to that. Really happy I did that. Really happy I went and I had fun, and I slept with a lot of women. Ever since I came across the red pill community, I still feel like a virgin. I have not slept with nearly as many women as you guys have. But my notch count is pretty reasonable. I always thought it wasn't the worst, but it was like I thought I was a whore at some point. It's true. And, I had fun in my 30s. And what ended up happening was that I I got into an LTR with one of the bartenders at the bar that I worked at, and we were together for 3 years. But for the first 2 years, it was not exclusive. Even after we moved in with each other, I ended up getting a bartending job at another bar just so that I can continue to sleep with other women. And I think subconsciously she knew this, but she didn't want to acknowledge it. But then towards the last year, she wanted me to change my career. And well, at that point, I was kind of working 2 jobs. I was bartending part-time, and I had started kind of caving into. I was doing social work, and I was bartending and doing social work at the same time. I would bartend a few nights a week, do social work, and it'd be nights where I wouldn't even show up, until and would take clothes out with me and from the other woman's house or other girl, wherever it was, go to work, and it wasn't really until the last 10 months when I decided to become exclusive with this, and I'll make a video about this. I'll call this the 4-5-6 experiment, where the woman I became an LTR with, I would say is a 4-5 at her best, and for me, I was 5-6 at my worst. Okay, I would say I don't know what I am. I think if I can I got myself physically looking good. If I can be a 6-figure guy, I would say I would be like an 8 at least, maybe a 7 or an 8. I don't know. I have no idea. I would consider myself a pretty decent looking guy, and as far as I'm concerned, I do pretty well with the ladies. But yeah, it's like, what am I? 31 minutes. Okay. Yeah, like I just, what am I saying here? How I recovered was through basically getting rid of a lot of the shit that you guys are going through today. The internet. I was able to leave my job, and I've actually recently done this again in my life, where I left mental health and I'm going into selling insurance. And if you made it through this part of the video, congratulations. I'm going to be selling insurance, and that's what I've been studying to do. The last couple of months I've been just getting in shape. I've gotten in really good shape. I feel great about myself, and because I've developed this pattern in my life ever since being zeroed out, I know what it takes to dig yourself out of a ditch. And when you do that, when you recover from being zeroed out, you'll know how to recover from anything. You'll know how to get out of anything after that. Okay, I lost everything with my ex-wife, BPD. Lost the church. I even lost contact with family. I lost my ideological perspectives, my religious perspectives, my money, my bank account. Everything was gone. Everything I thought I was going to be was gone. And I got through it. And I'm better today for it. And in the last year, what are we, in June 15, 2021? I think it was like May of 2020. After the whole COVID thing hit, I found the Red Pill community. And ever since then, I have excelled exceedingly. And I'm grateful for those guys. And one day, maybe I hope to be a part of that, contributing online with those guys. So we'll see. All right. That's it. That's how I recovered from being zeroed out. And if you're the one person that watches this video this long, let me know. I'll buy you dinner. Peace.